So, yeah, I mean, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining in the
Good afternoon, sir.
for the session. Just a quick introduction about myself. Uh, so, and also about the company. So, the Central, as a company, it started back in 90s. And what we are doing right now is we're mainly into performance capture, and motion capture. That's been our course. But over the years, we have also transformed ourselves in I would say more into virtual production. So that's one more thing. So yeah, I mean there are more people keeping on joining, so I'm admitting them. Just one heads up. I mean I just gave a session before this. So what I learned is that the slides which are coming on screen a bit there's a lag between the slides which will come on screen and also when I speak. So I'll just keep a pause between the slides so that you all catch up on the same frame. Uh, Starting with the company, what I'll do, I'll start with the showreel of our company, and then today's I'll be focusing more on what is virtual production and what's performance capture. What are the implement applications of this technology in the current space which we are in. So I'll start with the showreel now. Just a second. So there are just people who are joining, so I might need to admit them. Just a second.
നാല് കാശ് കൊടുത്ത ക്ലാസ് എല്ലാത്തി മ്യൂട്ടാ.
There's people who are coming in, so I'm just admitting them. A lot of people. So, sorry, I mean, in between, there were a lot of people who were joining the session, so I had to click on and that was popping up on the screen. So, if you're not able to see the showreel, you can check out on the website as well. I mean, to tell us about the company, we have been working since past 23 years, I mean, more than 23 years, and been working on a lot of games. I mean, FIFA, GTA, and that's been a big client, but we also work on the feature films television series like Game of Thrones and also on the commercials. Uh, our primary focus has been, as I mentioned earlier, was performance capture itself, but we also do virtual production, which is a term which you might be hearing a lot after the COVID situation, but this has been there in the industry from quite some years. But uh, and to go about what exactly virtual production is that there are a lot of components which are basically there inside virtual production. So that's always a question basically. What exactly is virtual production? The entire industry, you must be hearing on forums that there's a requirement for virtual production. So for me, what I understand about virtual production is basically a marriage between the physical production and the virtual production. So what you're doing, it's basically doing a real life production in just a virtual space. That's what we do. So what I have done for this presentation is I've broken down what is included in a virtual production, and then focus mainly on the performance capture going down the line. So one of the things that's part of a virtual production, the first is photogrammetry. So which is also known as a 3D scanning, which is generally done for either for the characters or also for the assets, props or assets. So this is a very useful tool for creating CG assets. So I believe the students are also from the games and also in the animation background. So modeling is there, but if you're looking for a modeling of a very photorealistic human, I think the photogrammetry is much more quicker way to do it for your pipeline. Uh, Another part of the virtual production is also the AR and VR. So I mean, for everyone who is aware about AR and VR, virtual reality and augmented reality, for those who aren't, VR is where you enter the virtual world. So if you see on the left hand side, a person wearing a VR headset, and that's basically a 360 also a camera to visualize, to capture a scene. Whereas on the right hand side, the lady is wearing a HoloLens. That's basically an augmented reality headset where you bring the virtual world into the real world. So that's basically the difference between AR and VR. I you must have had some experience within a virtual reality. So I mean, overall, going ahead, what
Sir,
is
sir, sorry for disturbance to you, sir. Actually, no. Actually, they actually sent me the mail. I think that mail they have not properly written. That's why. Okay. So that's why I conducted the class. It's fine. So next time I will give you the extra session. Since you have taken extra session, no, 4 hours. So I think I'll give you the next time extra session, sir. Okay.
Suman sir, your mic is open.
yeah? I think I said he's speaking with me. Sorry.
Suman sir, your mic is open. Suman sir, please check.
Yeah. So I think that wasn't for me, I believe, right?
No. Absolutely not. Please continue, sir.
Yeah. So AR and VR, both are in a part of virtual production, which we are seeing one of the components. Uh, Real-time compositing, that's another thing which is picking up a lot after the COVID thing. It was there earlier, but now because of the limitations on travel, and there's also lots of restrictions, where you can travel, where you can shoot. So now this technology is picking up a lot, where you're shooting against a chroma, but you're also visualizing what's going to be in chroma in real time. Just like in this example, if you see they are dancing on a chroma set, but the director can visualize what is going to be replaced by a chroma screen later on. So this is an a big advantage of on shooting against a chroma screen. Instead of just staring at a green stage, you're looking at exactly the final product, and that too in real time with a good keying quality. If you see the shadows on the floor and everything. So volumetric capture is another component of virtual production. So earlier we saw photogrammetry, that's scanning of a single frame. Volumetric capturing is capturing every frame in a video format. So this is something which is definitely going to be the future. It's very new at this moment, but and expensive as well. But yeah, I think going ahead, things are technology will get cheaper and you'll be accessible to this. The benefit of this is basically you can shoot a scene and then place the camera in any way you can, in any position you want to keep it. Now the application of this is for more immersive media. So if you're creating a content for VR, or if you're doing an AR content, this is quite useful for you. You can just create a 360 for visualization. uh, Also a lot of contents are being made in a volumetric capture, like for example this scene, which lets you become the director and see the scene from your point of view. You can change the camera at any point of time. So that's one added benefit over here. Coming down to full performance capture, that's the last component of virtual production. and mainly I'll be focusing on this topic, and I'll be speaking more about the full performance capture, which is also known as motion capture or mocap. So this technology has been there since 1990s. In the recent years, uh, it has picked up a lot because of a big success of movies like Avatar as well as Avengers. This technology has been picked up a lot. We started providing the virtual production services back in 2005-7. Back then, Centro has started back then. So. But the demand of the importance of this is now felt after the COVID situation, because as I go down the the services, you'll understand where exactly can you use motion capture at this moment, be it for your games, be it for your movies, be it any applications where you require a character animations to be done. So I'll start with a scene where, for people who don't know what motion capture is, this is what we do generally. That is, you have a camera surrounded by actors, and your actors are wearing a lycra suit. Basically, that's the material, and there is an active or a passive marker which we put on the top of an actor. That is getting captured by the cameras on the railing, and then it gives you the 3D animation data in real time. So it's quite handy for if you're looking for a realistic animation, and in a much more quicker way. This is quite a faster tool compared to keyframe animation, which is going to be there. So this is not replacing an animator's job. It's in fact giving them the leverage, giving them the base layer of animation on which you can work on further. So again, in this example also, you can see a person is navigating the floor. I'll just take it back. Navigating the floor with a camera, handheld camera, and that's also acting as a virtual camera in your motion builder or Maya or Unreal or Unity, whichever software you wish to previs your scene in. So what I'll be doing, as I mentioned earlier, there will be a lag between what I'll be saying and the frame in the slide which will come on screen. So I'll give a buffer time between each of the slides. Just an example from a recent movie which was out last,
It's
a big
amazing.
blockbuster movie.
I'm so confused.
How
I know,
performance
it's
capture is.
crazy. I'm wearing shirts now.
Yeah. What? How? Why?
5 years ago, we got our asses beat. Except it was worse for me, because I lost twice. First Hulk lost, then Banner lost. And then we all lost.
So what you're looking over here is performance capture on location. Basically, how we can do a performance capture scene on location. This is mainly for when you want your CG actor to interact with a real actor and get the timings right, because a lot of artists, when they're doing it, such performance on set, that gives them that you make them feel that they're part of the scene, and then they perform much more better over there. So this is just an example of those scenes. Motion capture is not only limited to capturing human. You can also do puppetry capture. That's to give an example of how the puppetry capture works, is one of the commercials that we worked on. Now this depends on the style. If you're looking for a puppetry capture, or if you want to do a 2D animation, the traditional keyframe animation, you can also do it with that. But this is just an intuitive way of having a capture done. Another thing that we capture is also prop. So say for example, if you're having a sword or a shield, or in this scenario, which is an F1 car, you get to capture everything. So we have put, whenever we've kept the markers on the screen, that's being captured. So you see the tires which is out there, those are also getting captured. So it's quite useful. It's very much similar to what you do a real life production shoot. It's very much similar, exactly similar to that. So you're not restricted with humans only. You can also do animal capture. Centroid has quite an experience capturing animals, a lot of animals for games, for televisions. One of the examples that work which we did for Game of Thrones, I'll be showing a video of that as well. That will give an example of how you can use an animal capture for your content. So the term, that is real-time previs, tech viz, stunt viz, or post viz. This is something which you'll be hearing a lot if you're in the films, in the VFX background, or in the games. You might be hearing a lot about stunt previs. So this is something which is useful for planning out how your story, if you're doing a cinematic thriller, if you're doing a short, how you're planning out that shot. Uh, with performance capture, you get one benefit that you get to visualize your scene in real time. So whenever the performer is active, and nowadays there are game engines out there, Unity as well as Unreal. So where it lets you pre-visualize the animation in real time. This is a huge advantage for, because now you get to, instead of earlier having a motion builder or a flat screen to pre-visualize, now you can pre-visualize a character animation in the scene that you will be finally using it. So with the effects, with the lighting, exactly with the final scene, you'll be also looking at the animation out there. And the benefit of mocap is, as I mentioned, you can capture the prop. So in the video, if you see the guy in the black t-shirt, he's moving across a tripod which has the markers attached on top of it. Now in the scene, you can attach it to a light globe. So as you see a light bulb, I mean, that's a light source which is floating around the scene. This is mainly nothing but the tripod. Now you can also make it in a CG scene. You can also probably put an helicopter and attach a camera, so you get an aerial view shot of an helicopter. So there are lots of intuitive way of using a performance capture for your scene. That depends on how you want to visualize it. Uh, the earlier terms which I mentioned, stunt whiz. Now, stunt whiz is very important for films. If you're planning to, if you're planning a complex stunt sequence, and if you want to pre-visualize, how you're going to shoot it. I'll play the next video, which is from Mad Max. A second. This one. This shows you an example of how the top frame which you see, that's completely CG. That is done in Unreal Engine. That's completely CG. It's giving you the rough idea of how the scene will play out, how the camera has to be placed, and on the bottom what you see is the final film. So that shows you a good example, how useful stunt whiz was for creating complex scenes out there. Right. Virtual camera or virtual cinematography, that is another thing which you can do with the Performance Capture Studio. So what we mean by virtual camera is driving your real world camera and make and moving the virtual world camera exactly how you move the real world camera. So that's what we are trying to do over here. So in this case, you see an iPad which has a marker on top of it. That's over here. Now the cameras are understanding where its position and rotation is in 3D space, and we are parenting it to the virtual camera which is out there in the game engine, and you can now get a much more precise rotation and position of the camera, which you can later take it into your post pipeline when you're doing match moving and compositing. That's when you can also use this data to get your compositing and also the match move done. Just a second. VR scouting or doing a recce in VR. Now this is something which we have which is very useful right now. That is getting into VR headset and visualizing your scene while the character is performing in front of you. This gives you a very good feedback, and also lets you immerse. If you're a director, it gets you immersed in the scene. If you're a game designer, it gets you immersed in the scene, understanding how the environment is. If you're creating a VR content, that's again useful, because then you understand where to direct the audience towards. So what you're looking on the screen, I'll just pause this frame for a second. What you're looking right now is a person in the VR headset looking at a person who is in the motion capture suit, and he can visualize the scene in real time. At Centroid, what we have recently done is that you can do the same thing in a virtual environment. What I mean by that is that even if you're sitting in any part of the world, in any corner of the world, maybe if it's a home or any place, you can still wear on a VR headset, log into Unreal Engine, and you will be totally logged into a stage. So you can just be directing you can communicate with the actor being from your home, and an actor can be either in the Mumbai stage or also on the UK stage, anywhere out there, and you can still direct the entire scene out there. Collaborative filmmaking is something which is I would say picking up a lot right now, and this is the pipeline which we are developing in-house. It's very useful for a game studio or also for films, where a lot of artists. So if you're a lighting artist, if you're a modeler, if you're I would say FX artist, everyone can work in the same scene in real time in a collaborative interface, and you can also visualize how your character is moving. So, for example, if you see the top left corner, there's a guy in the black shirt who's holding a frame of an iPad, and his viewport is something which is seen in the user D. So this shows his point of view, basically how things would be looked from his camera point of view. Uh, Similarly, if you're looking at, I'm in the VR headset over here, and my view is user C. So you can visualize, I mean, you can see what I was looking through and framing shots. This is very important for doing a recce in VR. So if you have, instead of traveling to a location because of the COVID, that might not be possible. So you through Google Maps, you can also get an 3D scan of any location out there in the world. You can bring it back to your game engine and now do a rec in VR. So you are planning out the sequence, how the scene has to be done. So it's a more, I would say, a useful tool for doing your previews out there. Right. Coming back to this, what we saw right now, that was the collaborative work for making. We also saw the VR scouting, and we also saw real-time compositing. Again, it's something that we have been doing right now is combining all of them together and giving something like this on the screen, which you see. That's a guy on the VR headset. The left screen is basically his viewport. On the right hand side, you can see on the stage there's a chroma screen as well as a person in the mocap suit. But for the director's point of view, that will be keyed out in real time, as well as you can augment a character on the floor. So this can be a scenario when you're shooting a CG character, maybe like Chota Bheem, or it can be like in Hulk against a real actor. So this is very useful for framing those kind of shots. I'll just play this video, which will show you much more. One second. Yeah. So this shows you understanding of how the augmenting works and how the keying works. So right now we are not keying out the background, but in the next video again, which will come up, that's when you'll see both keyed, the background keyed out as well as the augmentation of character. So yeah, that's an iPad which we are using it for a virtual camera rig. Right. LED screen, which is out there. This is something which is picking up a lot and was also used for the recent Mandalorian series on Disney Plus. What this does is that it lets you shoot against an LED wall to get the lighting correct on your subject. So instead of shooting on a chroma screen, you rather shoot against an LED wall, and the benefit you get is the light information on your subject. And also sometimes if your shot is the background is out of focus, you can also get away with the final scene in real time itself. To show you a video of how that works, this is the video of a bike commercial. So that's against the shot, and this is the output from the camera. So you see the advantage of shooting against the LED, that and the importance of this post COVID, that is instead of traveling to the location, you can probably set up an LED wall and then shoot against it. The similar example was done for Mandalorian also, which is there again in this video going ahead, which will show you how it was used for shooting a lot. I mean, obviously the volume was huge, but how you can shoot a complex scenes, multiple location in the same day just by using an LED wall. So it also I mean, it's a big added advantage, I would say, for you to shoot against the LED wall. Right. Yeah, if you see on the left hand side, that's how the LED frustum was moving. On the right hand side was the final output. And again, what they're doing over here is we are using a motion capture rig to capture the camera tracking data and apply it on over here. Just one second. same thing is over here as well. I mean, the table subjects are real, but the background is completely virtual. It's letting you shoot against. They're just changing the sets in a day. They can, instead of just traveling to different locations, you can just use the same location and do the shoots. I mean, many of you might be having a question about what is the exact application of I would say a performance capture, in your particular project, where all can you use the performance capture. There are majorly three places where usually a client uses performance capture, and now this three implementations can be for any medium. It can be either TV, it can be either VR application, games, or a film. So starting with the creature capture, because it's a point accurate over there. It's basically you can put a marker on any subject, and create a complex animations as well. So as you're looking over here, it's some creatures, you don't get that kind of human body. So we usually attach extensions on the actor or a wire work to get the right motion out. Again, over here, a good example where basically you can see how we are capturing an actor with a stilt in his hand, and now that's getting retargeted on the character asset. Now again, this character can again go in any of your medium. It can be games, it can be a feature film. It's wherever you can, and with a good compositing, you get such stunning results. Stunt, which I emphasized on earlier, is again, this is another place where you can either use. So on Tanaji we did a lot of stunt animation. So where we capture the animation, we capture the animation for the background characters or for the main subject as well. And if you've done the photogrammetry of the lead actors, you can probably apply the same animation on them and then merge them in the real scene. So also for Wonder Woman, the upcoming Wonder Woman and the previous Wonder Woman, we did a lot of digitable mocap shoots for Gal Gadot, for the Wonder Woman herself, and on the screen they usually merge the virtual and the real together, so it's a perfect blend. Crowd animation is also something I believe will pick up a lot post COVID. The reason for this is because there would be a lot of restrictions now, on how many artists you can have on a stage. One of the benefit of crowd motion capture is basically you can capture a complex scene with only limited actors, and there are a lot of softwares out there. I mean, for Maya there is Massive and Golem. For Unreal there is Atoms, which is out there, which is for crowd simulation. You can do this kind of animation to create a complex stunt sequence. So there'll be a particular scene over here, this particular burst toppling scene, which was shot with only 5 actors on our stage. So we created a ramp, and then those 5 actors did multiple passes of animation, which was then given to a VFX studio, and then they used their own proprietary crowd simulation software to create such simulations out there. I mean, one more great use of performance capture, which is happening in recently, is for creating digitables of an actor, a popular actor who is no more. This particular example which you're looking on screen is basically from Star Wars. I think the Last Jedi, if I'm not wrong, where you see Peter Cushing, the actor who is there on screen. On the left hand side, that's the real version from the older Star Wars movie. On the right hand side, that's a digital version of Peter Cushing out there on screen, and that was digitally recreated, basically, using a different actor on stage, having a performance capture head cam, and bringing him back on stage. So I mean, obviously the industry is still growing towards the facial performance to make it more realistic, and you might still find something uncanny about it, but that's what we all are working towards, making it much more perfect. This example, from previous, as I mentioned, that is from Game of Thrones, where when we do animal capture, so the horse data was applied in this Game of Thrones. We worked on 2 episodes. One was Spoils of War, which you're looking on screen right now, and the second was for Battle of Bastards. So I mean, this is a two episodes that we worked on, where we extensively worked on the horse animation, the soldiers who are riding those horses, and also soldiers on foot. Everything was captured in a stage and then given the animation to the VFX studio, who then composited them on the live plates, which was received well. So the reason they went ahead with this is because they shot the fire on location to get the fire simulation correct, and then they composited the CG characters in the scene. So that gives them a much more realistic, believable explosion effects. So again, motion capture is not only limited inside a closed room only for an actor or animal. It's also there for automobile. What you're looking on screen is basically a car rig made by a VFX studio called The Mill, and what they're using is for a motion capture of a car basically. So you shoot with this car, and in your final scene, you can replace it practically with any car model that you have. So that's the beauty of this thing. It has a lot of technology combined. As you see on the screen, it's having a lidar scan. It's having the light, for capturing light. There's a globes over there, and there are also tracking markers on it. So this is basically quite helpful. Unfortunately, it's very expensive at this moment, but I believe it's going to be cheaper once things gets more available out there in the market. Right now what you're looking on screen is an application of motion capture in AR, and on the top right hand side you can see a Michael Jackson in a hologram show, and on the bottom you see there's another actor, and on the left hand side there is two people who are playing basketball. That's simply from my iPhone. So what this shows is that the technology has also become very accessible out there right now, and the possibilities that you can do. So you can use the performance capture to bring back an actor from the life, which I mentioned earlier, and use them on a live show on a holographic with the help combining a lot of other technologies out there. You can create a much more immersive content for yourself. Again, there are lots of software. One software which is there by Adobe is called Aero, AERO, which is used for application of AR. So if you created some animation or if you created some model, you can simply upload it on Adobe Aero, and then you can augment it on your space. If you're having it works, I think also on Android, if I'm not wrong. So I believe that's the end of all the questions the presentation that I had, and please feel to reach out to me on my Twitter handle, also on my Instagram handle if you have any questions, or you can check out our website. We also have a library of animation where all these animations are quite cheap. It's 150 rupees per animation, which you can use it for if you're making a game on yourself, indie game developer, or just for the test project. So I believe that's everything from myself, but I'm happy to take any questions if you have for me. Thank you. Also, just one point. There were a lot of slides which might be delayed. So if you want me to go back to some particular slides to answer your questions, I'm even happy to do that.
How do you get into this CG industry? Is there any kind of portfolio thing you should make, or?
So just helpful if you can say your name and then a question, that might be helpful for me.
It's Aditya.
Okay, hi Aditya. So I believe you are doing a CG course. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Or perfect. So that's the starting point for you. Then you need to decide whether you want to go into game development, or if you want to get into film making. Basically, motion capture can be used for either, even for the TV commercials, for TV series, even for app development. So it's basically where exactly you're focused on, then I can help you with the exact answer. So if you're looking for a game industry, then I can be more specific towards that space. Right. Yeah. Good. So just coming back over here.
Excuse me, sir. I have another doubt. My name is Arvind Anadurai.
Yeah, hi Arvind. Yes.
So how much do these motion capture suits cost? And are they available for rent? Just grab them for a day or something and give it back?
We do have okay. So tell them that there are basically three types of motion capture technologies out there. One is the optical which you saw just in the in the screens out there, where there's a camera set up around there and there's an actor in the suit, right? So we do rent it out them. We don't sell them. There's also a technology called inertial motion capture, where if you're having a smaller office, if you want to do a quick animation in your classroom, we do also have a solution for that, where you don't require the camera rigs around there, where the sensors are basically embedded in your suit itself. So yes, we do have provide them for rent out there. That's available. There are a lot of other vendors also. If you type inertial motion capture, you might get a lot of data on Google as well with the cost of that thing. But yeah, it depends totally. How you want to do. If you are looking for a single actor capture, inertial is good for you. If you're looking for multiple actors, optical is good for you. If you're just looking for some R&D purposes, which I used to do, that is markerless motion capture. That's the third type of motion capture. There are also technology available for you. If you're just having an iPhone, you can use a markerless motion capture and get your animation done. You don't need to have a particular suit. So it totally depends, what complexity of animation, because as you go more towards photorealistic animation, the more expensive it starts getting it for you. So if do you have any requirement, expectation of what kind of animation you're looking for?
I was going to say R&D, like just to try it on, see how it works and all.
Right. So I would probably say you can start with markerless motion capture. There are companies like Radical, who is also working on markerless motion capture, where you just shoot with your iPhone or any iOS device. I think they're releasing a version for Android as well, and then you can just simply upload it, and the cloud itself does the computing of your image. The markerless suit. So that was my R&D. That's how I started getting into the motion capture field. But if you're looking for a suit at a very cheaper level, then there is a suit which is at the basic entry level. There's a suit called Perception Neuron, which is which cost 1 lakh or something, and that's the entry level suit for anyone out there. And then as you go more into optical which we provide is more on the production ready side. It's more for AAA titles, for more high end animation, and it's more expensive. So maybe probably for just for an R&D purpose, if you just want to try out, I would say start with the inertial suits and then upgrade yourself to an optical stage.
Thanks for answering the question.
Thank you.
Excuse me, sir.
Hi, Mr. Path. This is Ajay here, the
Yeah,
SME.
hi, yes.
Mr. Path, can you throw some light for the students about the facial rig, how they capture the facial thing
Sure.
for movies, animation, and games as well?
Sure. So, if you saw in the presentation, we have an head cam, which the actor will basically wear. It's basically like a helmet which has a boom in front.
I think his video is stuck, sir.
This may be due to network issue. 1 minute, I'll try to contact him.
Hi, can you hear me now? Sorry. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sorry. I
Yes,
think
sir.
I
Yes,
lost.
sir.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, what we're doing right now is a markerless motion capture, where once we feed the video feed, it automatically understands where the eyes are, where the nose is, and where the mouth is, and then it starts tracking and translating that data. The good thing, right now, if someone is into Unreal Engine, Epic Games has recently launched and software for iPhone, basically. So where if you're having the recent iPhone within the depth camera in front, we can even do facial capture with an iPhone. It gives you the decent result, which you can, once you have that animation, you can start working on top of it with a keyframe animation and get a much more high-end result. But I think that's an entry level to start with an iPhone or an iPad. I would say the one with an in-depth camera, and then start entering into that space. There are a lot of plugins for Maya as well. If someone is into pure animation, not into game development, there are companies like FaceCap as well as MoCapX. These are the companies who has created a plugins for Maya, basically, where you just take an iPhone in front of you, record some dialogue, and it converts into an .ma file. That's a Maya file. So yeah, I mean, but to answer your question, the entire industry is now towards a markerless facial motion capture, and not a marked one. You can still have an eyeliner on your face for your, if you're doing a keyframe by trick, but basically the software doesn't require it. It's all markerless.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I have one doubt. So if everything can be created on the set, like with the chroma screens and all, green screens and all, so then why do actors till today go to locations for shoot? Or like we filmmakers, like our short filmmakers, we shoot in the real time. Then how do we really incorporate that with motion captures technology?
Right. So I mean, to answer, it totally depends on your script. If you have such kind of characters, which requires motion capture, then the project uses a motion capture. But if the character, I mean, in India, it didn't used to be because there was no studio in India basically who provides this solution, on a professional level. So that's when we itself, I mean, even we came in India in 2018. Centroid has been there in UK since 95, and I was also part of that in Centroid UK. But then we later came down in India in 2000, by the end of 2018, after Bahubali came in. The reason is a lot of people then wanted to have a CGI animation, and then the requirement came in. So it totally depends on your script, basically. If your script requires that thing, then yes. If your script has a very sci-fi scene, which is not possible, which is, even if you do a location scout, that's not possible for you. Or even after this COVID, if you want to shoot on an international destination, it's not possible for you. So that's when you do this kind, when you use this kind of technology. But I mean, I would definitely say it's never going to replace shooting on location, because of the amount of light which you have. But it totally depends, I mean, after COVID, since you're not able to travel and shoot outside, you don't have any other option than use these technologies to shoot it. And second, also the reason was the expensive, how expensive it gets to shooting on location versus this. If you're looking at like a set like a Mandalorian, it's very expensive to build that kind of set. So yeah.
So like in terms of that, like Hollywood, the foreign people are much more ahead than Indian, I guess.
I would say in some cases yes, because but even we are picking up. It's not that we are behind or something like that. It's only the matter of the budget of a project. If the project has a budget, then even the Bollywood projects has used the Hollywood technologies. I mean, motion capture has been there since 20 years, but recently it's been used in a lot of Bollywood movies which we are working on. That's because of the cost, So we got the cost down for the Indian movies, and now it's accessible for them. Earlier it wasn't. Earlier they had to travel out of India or somewhere to get the scene done, and it was very expensive for them. So I mean, now, yeah, it just the budget side, I would say.
So like, why is it so like Hollywood people already had this technology way before we had? So because of the developing stuff.
Might be because, I mean, even the origins of this, all the hardware and technology softwares which we are doing, it was originated earlier over there. Accessible to everyone, so it's there everywhere. But earlier, I think that might be the case, I believe.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Thank you. Cool. Believe is that all the questions we have then? I mean, anyways, I'll do one thing. I'll put my contact details on chat. If anyone wants to reach out to me later for any questions, you can either send me an email or connect me on Twitter. Right. Good. Ajay, I think that's pretty much everything, right? Is there any questions from anyone?
I think they will send you a tweet, and I think so. They'll personally tweet you.
That's completely okay.
Yeah.
There's a question in the chat, sir, if you want to check out.
Yeah, sure. So to start with, it's motion capture. To start with the motion capture, how we can is basically there are two parts of motion capture basically. One is the production, that is shooting, and the second is the post production, that is integrating that data into your pipeline. You can probably right now, if you're studying, you can probably start with the second side. That is, you get a lot of free sources on internet, like a Mixamo, or where you get an animation for free. That's basically a more integrating that in. Sorry, I think my internet is acting very funny today. So yeah, sorry about that. So yeah, I mean, on the production side, you can probably start with a perception neuron, which I mentioned, or we can run this. We are planning to run the similar program in India for students, where we don't it's like an annual batch where you come in, you shot for a feature film and or a short film of yours, and then we give back that data and that experience for you to run. So yeah, I mean that can be one starting point for you. But you can check out our LinkedIn page, and as I mean, mostly we post our updates on LinkedIn and Twitter on Centroid. So you can check out the pages to follow. If you're having some openings or such programs out there. Good. Right. Good. I think Mr. Ajay, we can. We can carry on the further questions on maybe on Twitter if anyone wants to tag over and talk about it.
The students, if you guys have any question, please ask. I think they'll ask you through Twitter, sir. I believe so.
Okay. I mean, I posted my email address also. If anyone wants to reach out, that's okay. But yeah, thank you. I mean, thank you everyone, and thank you for inviting me and speaking out over here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.